Hello, Tom. This is Fred Judd, and I received your letter this morning. I quite understand from what you say in your letter about being suffocated or suffocating. I think what I'm going to have to say you may find somewhat disappointing. Now, I think I should explain to you that as far as electronic music is concerned, there is very little call for it. Very few people over here listen to any new kinds of music. The pop music, so-called pop music, the Beatles and so on, the teenagers' music, and the record companies over here will not make records of anything, any kind of music, unless they think it will sell, unless they can sell a lot of records. I don't think anyone in this country has had an electronic music recording produced, and unfortunately the sort of return that one would get for doing this kind of work is very, very small indeed. I'm stopping the tape a moment to the window was open and there's too much noise from the traffic.
I could never make that music again. I can never be that person again.
I can really answer the reason why I chose electronic music. I feel that electronic music chose me.
We find beauty in rhythm and in music, and some mechanical sounds sound musical to us. We don't consider whether they're mechanical or not, we just consider whether we like listening to it. So yeah, I mean we do, but we don't, it isn't any more important than any other sound, you know.
I think what
the rhythms can be quite sort of geometric. We like geometry a lot. I mean, we like geometry and we like order, but only if order permits feeling, you know. If order sort of in any way stands in the way of emotion, then it must be removed, because emotion has to be the most important thing, really. We don't have any fascination for electronic.
There's definitely a whole crop of kids to whom the computer is not new. The computer's always been there, and they're the ones that seek out specific traces of a digital way of operating.
Using or, in fact, abusing digital technology.
What everything was created by sound. Within that, someone was trying to explain something to me the other day, saying that within that, someone was trying to explain something to me the other day, saying that everything, like within, like even like that, what everything was created by sound.
I base the sounds on nature. I think the first techno started with nature. Whales use tones to speak to each other. Dolphins use tones. Bats use radar to detect food. So all these tones are elementary to life, and I study the tones. We make the songs from the tones. Some of the tones in our city. Some of the rats waking up in the morning, roaches crawling on the wall, people getting killed. It's all different tones.
It's a sound that can be taken from any source. Mainly it can be looped, yeah? So it can repeat over, say, 1 bar or 2 bars or 3 bars. And that repetition takes it into a different realm. So by the very fact of making this one thing that was never meant to repeat, really repeats endlessly. It works. And that's possibly quite difficult to describe. The other thing I'd say a sample is like when the sun comes out from behind the clouds, yeah? So when you hear a good sample, you get the same sort of feeling as the sun warming your shoulders as it appears from out of the clouds, yeah? It works.
Stage 1 has been completed. We've been making records for 60 years. Now we sample them.
There's creative uses of samples, and then there's cynical uses of samples. I mean, to me, just taking a Donna Summer hit single from 15, 20 years ago and looping a whole 16 bars worth or whatever is rather cynical.
This album wasn't made on samplers, it's made on records. If you hear a beat, I didn't sample the beat and loop it. I have 2 copies of the same beat, and I go back.
Kind of anarchist energy.
Then to the other table, you know, and that's how it was put together like that, like Lego.
It's all an organism, and the rhythm is created by the notes, and the notes create the rhythm, and together they create the harmony.
And you'd let the record go and release the pause button, and then you'd count the number of bars and beats that you wanted. So it would be 1, 2, 3. And then you'd pause the thing again, and then you'd go back to the beginning of that bit, and you'd find it, and you'd do it again, and you just keep repeating that.
And I go back.
First of all, I'd like to know what this is. Second of all, I can imagine, DJ Spooky is an example of this, and there may be others. Somebody who goes to music school gets, what we would call classical training or some serious training in music.
First started
but
making
sociologically,
records,
they
we
don't
didn't have a sample. We had a DJ mixer, 2 turntables,
and they get involved in the dance world.
a little 8-track
I can imagine.
desk,
I haven't heard it.
so
Maybe I began to
plug
hear
other
it.
things into it, like effects units.
Well, I'm not in the business of making dance music in the sense of dancing people dance. But I will tell you, remember in 1973 or 4, we played up in Stockholm. We played drumming. We played drumming. And it was like, it was early 70s, early 70s, still a lot of
old-fashioned drum machines, and a cassette machine.
We saw it
It was a 4-track cassette machine.
Go ahead. But for me, the kind of dance that generally comes to my music is choreographers.
It was a 4-track cassette machine.
My favorite was Anna Kiersmacher from Belgium. I mean, she began her career with piano phase and violin phase and come out and clapping music. And I never saw
Là, on est confronté à un son qui peut représenter un certain danger, une certaine perte d'équilibre, avec le sol un peu comme ça, un peu entre deux, quoi. Et puis l'obscurité totale où, pour moi, on se retrouve face à soi-même, quoi, avec une perturbation assez intense.
I think my music and my activities have many aspects.
Technology.
One aspect is really like a very static sound and people moving around there and people can notice something. Like a web, net, like a trap. Just I put sound. And people can make their own music by themselves.
This is what we're talking about is music which is based upon technology.
I always aim human's perception. The problem about around human's perception.
It's this direct correlation. It's like a race between two friends who have their legs tied together. Maybe one person is a little step ahead, and then the next one's a step ahead, but they're tied together. Technology and the electronic music is tied together. It will always be tied together. And if you do feel limited by the machines every day, every week, every month, there is new advances in technology. Someone creates a new effects box, a new keyboard, a new computer, a new computer.
I don't know if the people that are building the devices and writing the software are aware of the people that are creating with the software. And I think that's going to put some limitations on how far things will go until the artists also start becoming code writers. There's going to be limits.
since I've been young. Had the idea to make dreams up when I was asleep, because I always used to get melodies and sounds and people talking to me in my sleep. And I just thought it'd be really cool to actually try and remember some of the tunes, which I did, and then I actually consciously made myself like think of music and sounds when I was asleep.
It was so simple, and nobody was able to do it because it was so simple.
But I don't do it anymore. Like, I mean, I still dream sounds and melodies, but I don't do it. I don't try to record it anymore because it's too much like hard work. It's quite frustrating as well if you dream something really nice and you forget it when you wake up.
I stopped listening to music in general. I had my own personal things that I was going through, and it was just, I was also going through a time of, I guess I would say...
I'm not retro or conservative in this at all, you know. I'm really looking forward to have...
Not, well, I mean, it's... I don't know, really. I mean, I'm talking with specific reference to this is beneficial to sort of to my state of mind. I actually feel kind of a lot happier in general, sort of thing, if and when I'm doing it, because I feel like it answers loads of the sort of kind of loose ends or broken connections in my head. It fills in the gaps. I'd say that it is definitely important for me to do it in the sense that it helps me live, you know. It's weird. I mean, it feels like it's like a marriage between the two main sort of ingredients into my life, obviously, like my mum and my dad, which is like, my mum was a mentally unstable kind of psychic person. My dad's was like a really arrogant electronics engineer. So I reckon if you just bung those two things together, that what you get is me.
There are freaks that are created either through accident or disease, and then there are freaks that create themselves.
We got laughed at. It was a joke. We got laughed at for years. So we had to really believe in ourselves, because we could have given up.
A freak is really a metaphor or a symbol of someone that's on the outside. And in a lot of ways, they've always seen themselves as outsiders, as freaks, if you were.
It was just the two of us, man. And we stood up to the whole world.
I saw so many different types of music coming out. You had eventually, I had to just sit back and just watch everything pass by. I had to sit back without releasing any music, but I was still making it, but I couldn't release any. So it was basically me just sitting back in the corner, just like strategically looking at everything that was going on. You know, I couldn't really make much noise, so I had to sit back sort of kind of quiet and realized that I didn't really want to be involved in that type of music, didn't really want to be involved in that music era.
There's no tribes anymore in music. You don't have to belong to a gang. It means that there's no sort of strong movements in music, that there's kind of, there's so many different types of things that people can get into and listen to bits and pieces of all these different things. They don't feel they have to attach themselves to one sort of thing anymore. And I think it might not ever really happen again. There might not be another acid house or another punk. And there's no kind of like defining movement. There's no Stone Roses or Happy Mondays, or there's no Sex Pistols or The Clash, or there's no Beatles and the Stones, you know, which is a shame.